Hi Sylvie, welcome back on
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
welcome on the live session and being a Friday and having somebody like you. I'm sure the weekend vibes are already in for you.
Can you just say it again? Sorry.
I said I
The
think
line.
vibes are already in for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Sylvie, you being in the genre where you've taken care of corporates, leadership, their mental wellness, if you could give me a little more introduction about yourself, and I think that's when we can actually address a very important topic, which is the art of holding space for our emotions at the end of the day. So, if you could give me a little brief about you and for our listeners, I think that would be great.
Yes, certainly. So my name is Szilvia Vitos, and as you mentioned, I'm coming from the corporate space myself. I have spent 15 years in corporate environment, logistics, and supply chain industry, and I kept climbing the ladder up to the executive management role, and that's at the top of my career. Basically, I decided to make a hard stop and started to go inwards and started to go on my own journey, and this is how a couple of years forwards now I'm supporting, going back and supporting executives on their journey, helping them achieve more with less stress. And emotional intelligence is a very, very core element of all the guidance that I'm doing.
Perfect, perfect. It's a very noble profession at the end of the day, so to just kind of, ease people when they are a little haywire mentally.
It's not an easy one, of course, but that's exactly the enjoyable part because when I see the transformations that are possible even in a matter of an hour,
Right.
that can be very, very impressive because thing is that you just don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
And when you are receiving important information from others who can just point you to the right direction, how to think differently, how to be differently, you immediately gain a fresh new perspective in whatever situation you are in. And that just changes everything around you.
True, true. Perfect. So we're coming to the topic that we wanted to discuss today, which is the art of holding space for your emotions. What does that exactly mean? What does holding your emotions or holding space for your emotions really mean? And how would you define it for someone who's new to the concept?
Yeah, it's a very big topic and a very big question in itself, but I will try to bring it to the point. Actually, being or holding space for emotions and being present with our emotions is not an easy task to do, and it takes a lot of courage. Starting from the fact that many people, and I am one of them, was growing up without talking much about emotions. I've never been learning anything in particular. In our environment, we used to talk about, oh, how are you feeling? Are you good? Are you bad? But good or bad, none of them are emotions in itself. So it really took me to this phase in my life where I truly went inwards and started my journey on the note of personal growth and development, where I started learning about emotions. And there is nothing wrong with that. And it's never too late to start and to be curious about it. What does it mean to be angry or to be frustrated or overwhelmed or worried or joyful or surprised or whatever it is, right? We can receive or we can find a lot of information nowadays. One of my favorite books is just not right next to me now, but Brené Brown, The Atlas of the Heart, a beautiful writing where she explains in detail about each and every emotions. But really, when we are dealing with emotions, I used to believe 35 years long in my life that emotions just happen to me.
Right.
And I oftentimes just fall victim of my emotions because I had no idea that I can take control of all those.
Right.
And Now I know that there are tools and techniques which can help tremendously on this journey, and we can feel anyway at any time by
Hmm.
choice after a
Hmm.
bit of practice and incorporating it in our everyday life. So it's really, to translate, is being present with our emotions.
Perfect. So, Sylvie, why is it that difficult for us to sit down with our emotions instead of just rushing to fix it and, or avoid them at the end of the day?
Because oftentimes it's painful, right?
Hmm.
When think about the time, and you can call it up, bring it up just by thinking about it. When you
Right,
felt frustrated or when you felt angry, it's not a pleasant feeling.
right,
So our natural human response is to not want to feel it. So we push it away, we suppress or repress it most of the time. But the challenge with that is that emotion, as the name mentions as well, it's energy in motion.
hmm,
So if we are unable to let this energy pass through our body, then
right,
it will get stuck somewhere somehow, and it will just sit there quietly until it becomes so overwhelming that it will show itself in some way and form, and it will just cause either an outburst or some kind of disease, or there are many different ways how it can show up. And so, because it is painful, we want to avoid it naturally. And that's why I said that it really takes courage to be
hmm,
able to sit with it and be brave enough to look into the eyes of what is it that we feel. And the funny thing is that when we are able to do that, sit down and call those emotions we are feeling by name,
right,
and be able to really name them. I'm fearful, I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that. Just by naming it, it will immediately lose its power. So you will immediately feel a little bit lighter. And when you close your eyes and just try to locate it, wonder about where do I find it in my body? Is it more
hmm,
in my chest? Is it in my head? Is it in my tummy? Where does it show up? And just be with it, stay with it, notice it without judgment. And as you do that, this is exactly how you are processing it. And by processing it, you release it from your body, from your system, so you free yourself from it. And
right,
then you can keep going on with so much more lightness. And of course,
hmm,
now I'm referring to those negative emotions because those are the ones we want to avoid.
right,
Positive ones we want to amplify.
hmm,
And that's also the interesting part, that similarly, also the positive ones, we can experience so much more by choice.
perfect, perfect. So, Sylvie, when we came across, the post for this live session, we had a lot of questions that came in at that point. So one of the questions I'll pick up a few questions from there. That in leadership in high pressure roles, emotions are often suppressed. That's what people think. So how can leaders start holding space for their own emotions without feeling that they're being unprofessional?
Yeah, and that's exactly the same recipe I was just talking about, taking the courage and being willing to process those emotions.
Hmm,
And since emotion is energy, it really starts with trying to shift that energy. And there are many things that we can do, simple things. For example, use journaling.
hmm,
This is why writing things down is so very powerful, because that releases energy and emotion in itself.
hmm,
Or talking it out to a friend or to your spouse or whoever you trust. Talking it out, how often it happens, just by talking about the thing that bothers you, you already
right,
feel so much lighter and easier. Meditation is a very big and very important tool that I would highly, highly recommend to any person who is working in high pressure environment to start practicing, because meditation is often misunderstood. It's not necessarily about how to quiet the mind, although that can be a form of it, but it's really about becoming aware of what's going on inside and using that time of inward, looking inwards to define how do I want to show up. in the world? How do I want to be? How do I want to think, act, and feel? And that will almost immediately set you up for a whole new perspective and view of life and your day. If you do that like first thing in the morning, your entire day will run very differently. So it probably worth a try to just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You don't have to sit for hours. You can, but you don't have to. Already a couple of minutes of mindfulness in the morning will make a huge difference. And irrespective of whether you are in high pressure environment or not, but when you are there, it's even more critical that you utilize time when you are not stressed out, when you are in a quiet state of being, where you are able to think clearly, to be creative, to contemplate about what's going on, to use that time to have your tools ready, to know what you're gonna do when the high pressure hits home. Because when you are under the high pressure, your thinking part, logical part of your brain just naturally shuts down, right? It closes the doors. So this is not the time to think. This is not the
Mm,
time to be creative. This is not the time to learn any new information.
right.
You are unable to do that. You cannot focus. We experienced, all of us, all that. So you get to use the time when you are able to think clearly to get ready for the time when you are under pressure. And then that time you just know what tools you want to use and apply. Just try it out because you have so many options to test and help yourself.
Right. Perfect. Perfect. So, Sylvie, I mean, just out of curiosity, there are a lot of people who still juggle when they say that, multitasking is something which is very overwhelming for people. And somewhere or the other, it kind of, hits a chord where at the end of the day, they just say that there's no more that I can do. And somewhere or the other, it kind of hits hard on their personal as well as professional life because the outcome is something that they're not able to achieve. So, very small things that, you kind of mentioned of giving 5 minutes to yourself, journaling, and a lot more can be like a game changer for anybody who's just feels overwhelmed most of the time because of any pressure, and anything which comes to them becomes a pressure.
Yeah, there are so many things. I mean, I already mentioned several, but you get to pick your own battles. And I can list you 100 more tools, and I will give you a couple of more. But
Right.
you get to check in with yourself. What is it that you are struggling with the most?
Mm.
And what tool would serve you the best? And do not try to do everything. I really highly recommend, especially if you haven't done any mindfulness kind of thing ever before, start
Right.
small because the bigger we start, the sooner we're gonna give up and decide this is not for me. But that's
Right.
also just a choice. It's just a thought. You
Mm.
can become anyone, you can become anything, and you can shift yourself into any kind of state of being. You just need to want to, and you just need to take the decision for it.
Mm.
So again, depending on where you are at, for you or for someone listening, it might be just having a more dialed in planning process,
Correct.
right? Because
Correct.
when we are so overwhelmed, because you mentioned multitasking,
Right.
multitasking is scientifically proven is just simply not something we humans can do. What we can do is to rapidly change between the different tasks from one to the other, which is
Right.
burning your energy like hell. So if you want to save some energy and use it a little bit in a smart way,
Mm.
then schedule a task for a period of time and then go to the next one because multitasking is just physically not possible to do.
Correct.
Nevertheless, planning. I have
Mm.
this favorite 6 P's I learned from one of my mentors earlier.
Mm.
Proper planning prevents poor performance. And I see this working like magic for some of my clients who apply that tool that, when they feel in a very high responsibility position, when they
Mm.
feel really overwhelmed and frustrated and their head is just full of all these to-dos and tasks and
Mm.
challenges and whatnot is on the table.
Mm.
When you are not emptying those things out of your head
Mm.
onto a piece of paper or a notebook or whatever it is, then it will keep spinning on your mind just the same way like when you open 100 tabs in a I don't know, Google Chrome, it will slow down your
Yes.
computer. Same happens in
Absolutely.
our brain, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
close those tabs, and at the end of the day, take 10 minutes to reflect back what was happening during the day, what you have achieved, and then plan a little bit, look forward for the next day. What are the three critical elements or tasks that I really want to accomplish? What is it I can delegate? What is it I can eventually schedule for later? Or how can I get everything that matters right now into
Right.
my day of the 24 hours? And
Right.
when you do that, you really take out all these spinning thoughts from your mind onto the paper. It gives you such a peace that suddenly you can sleep so much better, as an example.
Perfect, perfect. So, Sylvia, there's another question that we've got that the person says that I get confused between emotional intelligence and being emotional. What's the major difference? Would be great if you could clarify.
I would say it's exactly the opposite. When you are emotionally intelligent, then you are able to first of all recognize, and
Mhm.
not just recognize but also manage your own emotions, and
Mm.
then similarly be empathetic with others, so you have a similar level of understanding for others, what they are feel, why they feel that way, how you can best support them.
Mm.
That's what emotional intelligence is about. Being emotional is more the expression of certain emotions. It's more overreacting certain situations. This is when we fall into the victim mode. This is
Right.
where we are unable to keep hold of our emotions and manage them and deal with them. So that's when we give our, I love this statement, when you can say you give your power away to somebody or something that you believe is making you feel angry or upset or frustrated.
Mm.
But I hate to break it for you, nobody and nothing is ever making you
Right.
feel in any way. It's you.
Correct.
And you are such a powerful being, everybody listening and not listening as well, such a powerful being that you can anytime decide to claim your power back and
Absolutely.
sit back in the driver seat of your own life and emotions, and
Mm.
you decide how you want to feel about it. It's not about why is this happening to me?
Mm.
Flip this question into how is this happening for me? And when
Correct.
you look at any situation from this angle, then suddenly you find very different type of answers to it.
Right. Right.
So I hope this answers the question.
Perfect, perfect. I think it was very beautifully put in. I think it's going to be, whoever listens to it is going to be like a therapy within itself because it's something which is very relatable, to most of
Mhm.
us at the end of the day. Okay, so there's another question that I will just pick up that a person says sometimes in our workplace, we often get emotional by words from our surroundings. What should we do in that moment?
Mhm. Again, this is very individual, what
Mm.
works for you best. And that's about becoming self aware. Self awareness is extremely important, although it sometimes feels like becoming a cliche. But when you really understand that the more you know yourself, the more you
Mm.
can use the right tools that works for you. So
Right.
if it's about calling your best friend whom you can talk it out and release that emotion that's bothering you, then do just that. If it's
Mm.
about going for a quick walk around the building block and soak in some fresh air and sunshine, then
Mm.
do just that. If it's about sitting in silence and closing your eyes for a moment and take some real slow, deep breath,
Mm.
which will get you back into homeostasis and calm your mind, then do just that. If it's about grabbing a journal and writing down a couple of thoughts, what's going on in your mind, how and why is this bothering you, how can you give it a different meaning that serves you better, then do just that. So again, it's very individual, but very important to have your toolkit ready. I
Right.
love inviting my clients to create their own stress management toolkit. And this can be so things. It can be objects and it can be things, tools. Like have your happy music playlist, which you
Right.
can anytime plug in, play for yourself, and music has a very special energy, especially when you have certain emotions connecting to it.
Right.
Or have a family picture on your table that when you look at it, you suddenly be reminded about the meaning of life and what really matters.
Right.
So many things you can incorporate and just pick and take the ones that make you.
Perfect, perfect. Um, so Sylvie, when we're talking about somebody being very emotional, they have their different, as you said, different toolkits can be applicable for different people. But when you spoke about journaling, most of us, after creating the application, a lot of people actually come up and say that in journal they would always want to write the positive aspects to it, and not something like a place where they can vent out a couple of emotions as well. So why do you think that people are being a little hindrant in just putting it down all there rather than just picking up incidents that they would want to put in?
It depends, right? It might be fear driven. Oftentimes, I see that coming across that, oh, I don't want anyone else to see. And we connect it somehow in our brain that if I write it down, then it's visible to everybody and anyone might find it and read it. And then I'm an open book and I don't want that. I'm holding on to it, but you really don't have to share. You can, there are even rituals where you can just write it all out and then burn the paper and it's all gone. Even you cannot read it back again. So there
Perfect.
are ways of doing it. And in terms of what to write down, I mean, first of all, that's why you can use supporting tools like your absolutely amazing application, for example, the Beyond Lifestyle, where you have amazing prompts that will help you figure out what to write down. You can have some of your favorite prompts already there, or you just let your mind flow. But those who are just starting in that journey, it can be really beneficial to receive prompts because the way how a question is being put across
Right.
will hugely change the way what kind of answer is coming out. And I see that also all the time. Like I love starting when there is coaching session with clients. I love starting. So what's the highlight of the last week or since we last met? And in the beginning, usually people start, nothing really worked out. Actually, this didn't work. That didn't go well. I'm like, okay, let me repeat the question. The question is, what are the highlights? What went well? Let's pick one thing. It takes a huge effort in the beginning. This is
Mm.
the train your brain phase where you really have to rewire your brain towards the direction that it will be able to go to the positive first and
Mm.
stop looking for the negative immediately. It's just a matter of training. But then
Perfect.
after a couple of weeks are passing by, this question is straight being answered with the wins very confidently, and just the whole tone and everything is changing around it. So it really is just being willing to take the time and invest into yourself because that's the best thing you can ever invest into.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so Sylvia, I'll pick up a question now. Okay. The person asked that I'm a very emotional person, and I would want to know if there is any simple practice that I could do when the emotions really trigger hard in my professional or personal space. I think you already kind of mentioned a lot of things that people could do. Perfect.
Yeah, and then I said it's very individual,
Yeah.
so it really makes sense for the person to figure out what works best. But as I said, the deep breathing, the journaling, and trying to understand that's the first important step, to understand what's the story that you are telling yourself about the whatever situation is going on in that's bothering you seemingly.
Right.
And when you figure out what are the thoughts around it, what's the story you are telling yourself, then what are
Mm.
the underlying beliefs, and then how can you rewrite that story? How can you give it a different meaning? what else could it be, right? Because oftentimes we just round up the story based on our past experiences and memories, but actually we have no idea, right? We
Right.
just don't even know what's going on or what's happening, but we will put the story together and then be upset about it.
Right.
So, yeah, and several of the other practices that we already mentioned can be used, what best suits you.
Perfect. Celia, I think you very rightly mentioned that it's not something that, one therapy suits all. Every person has their own things that they could kind of develop or, curate for themselves for just be at ease at the end of the day. It's not like, one thing will suit everybody.
Exactly.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so I'll pick up the next question. Okay, so this question comes into me that I would like to know from you that I have just downloaded the application and would want to understand that how the Beyond Lifestyle would support me in recognizing, processing, and making space for my emotional well-being. Okay, so I think I would just address that in terms of
Mhm.
saying that, as Sylvie you rightly mentioned, that there are a lot of things that people can do. Journaling is a very common thing, so we try to incorporate a lot of things that people could freely use and use it as an emotional and only their space to kind of put across. Where we have put, curation of their own music according to their mood. Journaling is one part of it. Then, knowing a lot of information which nobody would want to reach out to Google for, kind of is
Mhm.
there. Along with that, there are a lot of wellness tunes that we've curated for people to be at ease. Meditation, yoga, etc. So there are a lot of tools that we've actually incorporated in one application where a person can not just focus just on their mental space, but their overall well-being when it comes to their soul. So I believe that if it's a happy soul, at the end of the day, you're giving the best thing to your body and mind at the end of it. So we tried, it was an effort to curate an application which will help an individual 360-degree and cater the best for their lifestyle and wellness. That is what the motive of the app is overall. Okay, so I will pick up the next question. I hope I've answered the question that was asked. Okay, so Sylvia, the next question comes across that the person wants to know from our experiences that what role does emotional self-awareness play in achieving true personal growth or leadership success?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
It's like everything, right? Because we are emotional beings.
Yeah.
And so if you are not able to identify what and how you are feeling and why and where it comes from and how do you want to actually
Mm.
feel about certain things,
Right.
then it takes you for a ride or for many rides. And that's where we lose control.
Mm.
So I truly believe, and not just believe, I have experienced it myself. And if I look back how I was completely unconscious and not self-aware at all for so many years,
Mm.
and how often I felt miserable and I didn't even know. I thought that's the normal just because who defines the normal? The
Correct.
environment you are in. So that was the environment I was in, and I thought this is normal.
Right.
And it is, I cannot even describe what kind of world just opened up for me the moment I started to really dig into these topics and apply it for myself, first of all, and understand that the more you are able to understand about yourself, your
Mm.
emotions, your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, your habits, this is
Mm.
what drives your life.
Correct.
95% of the time, we are functioning on automation out of our subconscious programming. And this 95% is no joke. This is a
Right.
tremendous number.
Mm.
And we do underestimate because we love to believe that we are so conscious of everything. We are so conscious of all the decisions we make, all the actions we take, and whatever we do. But if you take a little closer look of your life, of your actions, of everything that's unfolding around you, you
Mm.
will realize that actually it's the programming,
Right.
and you do have again the power to
Right.
overwrite the programming. If you don't like it, if you don't like any aspect of your life,
Mm.
then be in charge and take a different direction. You have all the possibility and opportunity of the life to do just that, and it is one decision away, which is to finally step up for yourself and start developing yourself on this journey.
Right.
So I hope this answers the question.
Perfect. So, Sylvia, when it comes to emotions, so I think emotional turbulence actually ends up into a lot of turmoil between your physical and your mental health as well at the
Oh,
end of the day, where productivity goes off for a toss. The logis in terms of work goes off for a toss, and of course your six P's that you mentioned in our conversation, of course, takes a toss as well, because you're not there completely to understand what's good and bad at the end of the day. Perfect.
this is absolutely true, and it's a big one because when you start to understand that just a tiny bit, just scratching the surface about what happens in your physiological body when you are stressed out, then you will start to appreciate truly those seemingly meaningless mindfulness tools and techniques that we keep talking about.
Right.
Because the truth is that when you are stressed out, your brainwave frequency shoots up, which
Hmm.
means that all your evolutionarily, we were created in a way that stress response was meant to happen for just a very short period of time. And
Right.
actually, when it was truly about survival, right? So a
Right.
predator was out there about to eat us up for dinner, and it was about staying alive or not, so
Hmm.
that your body could physiologically respond and shut down the thinking part of the brain so
Right.
that all the energy could just go and be diverted or narrow focused on this one significant threat,
Absolutely.
whatever you experience as a threat,
Hmm.
and then pump all your blood into the blood vessels so that you can run much faster if you decide to run,
Hmm.
and pupils are growing so that you can see much better if you decide to run and look for some safety uh, corner.
Right.
And so back then it was about the predator. Today it's your boss, your coworker, your supplier, your whoever who you
Right.
believe is making you upset or angry or whatever it is, which they
Hmm.
actually not. But
Right.
the physiological response is exactly the same. So
Hmm.
what happens in the body, and it doesn't take a short period of time, we keep going on like that 24/7. And what happens is your immune system is downregulated. When the stress
Right.
response is up, there is no immune response, so you fall sick so much quicker. Your digestive system is downregulated because it's not the time to enjoy a meal and digest a delicious food because you are in a life-threatened, seemingly situation. So your
Right.
body will not digest the food properly. You will have all kind of digestive issues.
Right.
It's not the time, as I said, to be creative, to learn all the basic functions of the body, including the breath, the blood pressure, the whatnot, will
Hmm.
be down regulated. This is why we see a never seen before amount of diseases, of
Hmm.
people taking sick leaves. And that's where the question is when you invest into some mindfulness or well-being or any such kind of thing, whatever it is, if it's a gym pass, if it's an application, if it's anything, a
Right.
coaching,
Right.
whatnot, then what are you really investing into and what is the part that you can gain on the other side? Because when you
Absolutely.
are stressed out, it's also not the time to be productive.
Right. Perfect.
Very friendly. There is no way you can be productive. So the
Absolutely.
moment you are able to take it under control, and you cannot tell me that you have such an environment that you are unable to, and it's not possible. I often hear that it's not possible to take it under control. I have
Hmm.
clients who are in a very high executive position, responsible for hundreds of people, strategic deliverables in hundreds of millions of dollars value, all across several countries, traveling day in and day out, and parallel having a beautiful family. And
Right.
we are having conversations with a tremendous smile and
Hmm.
keeping everything structured, balanced, harmonized, and the client is just absolutely rocking it and enjoying it. So you cannot
Perfect.
tell me that your situation is so bad it's not possible to change.
Right.
Maybe it's too big of a challenge to change, or you are too afraid to take the decision to change. And this
Hmm.
is where you always have the opportunity to call for help.
Absolutely.
That's why we are here.
Perfect, perfect. So, Sylvie, because of the shortage of time, I will just pick up the last question from the ones that
Yes,
people have asked, and I think we
please.
would, kind of address the others either on the message
Next
or
time.
one-on-one, yeah, or next time. So I'll just pick up the last question. Okay, so does our body also show silently that we are not holding space for emotions properly, like a chronic stress, fatigue, restlessness?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it does. Of course. Because, and again, as I briefly touch based on that, since
Hmm.
emotion is energy in motion, our emotions, there is a book about it as well. And it's also something I love data, scientifically proven that an emotion, if you let it pass through, it only lasts 90 seconds
Right.
in your body. But what we do is either we repress, suppress, or we keep fueling it by our thoughts and we just start going down the spiral. And
Hmm.
then we cannot get out of it anymore.
Hmm.
So these energetic blockages
Hmm.
will definitely cause problems in our body. And it might come in variety of ways. Some people get migraines, others have backache, stomachache, all kind of joint pain. It can be so many different um, way of showing itself physically, and
Hmm.
you probably never even think about that it's linked to any kind of emotion. But when you start practicing certain techniques which
Hmm.
serves the purpose of releasing stuck emotions, like work, for example, then
Hmm.
you may be surprised how certain pain that you used to experience suddenly just disappeared and where it has gone, and none of the doctors could really tell you what it is
Right.
all about or what's the underlying reason. They always just try to patch a little bit on the surface and tackle the symptoms itself, but they will rarely tackle the root cause. That's with you because no doctor will ever really understand what's going on inside.
Abs- Absolutely.
So yeah, it does show.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Sylvie, for joining us and giving your valuable time on a Friday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining
It's been
us.
a real pleasure talking to you, and every time we have such a meaningful conversation. So looking forward to the next one already.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are happy that you have joined your hands with the Beyond Lifestyle because your insights are so valuable that at the end of the day, it's always a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvie. Thank you.